Hey everyone, Emilio here. The story I gotta tell starts in that beat-up Detroit trailer. The four of us crammed into that leaky tin can, stealing Wi-Fi, siphoning water, eating expired cans the neighbors tossed out, living like rats. That is, until my sister Sophia used a fake Stanford diploma to knock on the rich folks' door. Sophia's friend handed her that fake diploma while we were huddled outside the trailer splitting moldy bread. The guy puffed on his vape, his glasses reflecting the lights of Greenwood Estates. Rich folks only see the paper, he told us. They don't scrutinize resumes any more than they stare at a gardener's calloused hands. How'd we get in? Think of it like putting together a puzzle. First, Sophia's hustle. We were gathered around our rusty table, scraping the last bits from a tuna can, the sound harsher than the rain outside. Sophia slammed her fork down, eyes glued to her phone. Marcos texted. The Parkers in Greenwood need and sut tutor. Marcos, her community college buddy with the tilted cap, works security over there. $50 an hour. She read, her nails digging into the flaking paint. That's more than Mom makes in 3 hours. We all knew Mom's hours got cut cause the boss said she was too slow, and Dad hadn't had landscaping work in weeks after the tornado wrecked his tools. The diploma was the problem. Sophia dropped out after 2 years at community college. No certificate. But Marcos texted, rich parents only care about the name. Photoshop a Stanford transcript. Wear a decent shirt. They won't even scan the QR code. He sent a sample. The gold seal shimmered on her screen like burnt toast. Dad dug out a decade-old suit jacket, patches glaring white under the bulb. Maybe I can borrow a printer? Mom, wiping down a plastic takeout container, said, Aunt Lucy next door knows Photoshop. She faked a medical note last year. That night, we crowded into Aunt Lucy's mildew-smelling living room. Her hands shook as she adjusted the font. Times New Roman, aiding PT, bold. Sophia stared at the screen like she was memorizing her last words. At dawn, she wore our cousin's knit sweater, stuffed community college notes into a thrift store briefcase. I watched from the trailer window as she walked to the bus stop in worn sneakers, her back straighter than usual, like a bird folding its wings to enter a gilded cage. Later, she told me Mrs. Parker eyed the patch on her sleeve for 3 seconds, then saw the Stanford diploma, and her face lit up. Ivy Leaguers are different. You explain things with such beautiful logic. It was a gamble, knowing the diploma was fake, betting the rich wouldn't look down at our feet. They're too busy staring at their own ceilings to see the rats gnawing at the foundation. Then, Dad becoming the gardener. All thanks to Sophia's inside info. Her first week tutoring, she saw the Parker rose garden was a weed jungle. The old gardener quit. Mr. Parker told security to just water it, and now the roses were crawling with aphids. They posted in the neighborhood group. Sophia pushed a half-eaten corn tortilla across the table. Dad was taping a leaky faucet. He looked up, grinning. I tended a whole agave estate in Mexico. Tougher than roses. He found an old 2005 photo of him with red roses in Mexico. Sophia used Aunt Lucy's junk computer to Photoshop the background into a Beverly Hills mansion, really just a derelict Detroit house choked with ivy. The resume, printed on fancy photo paper at the community center, listed him as chief horticulturist, Beverly Gardens. For the interview, Dad wore his only long-sleeve shirt, shined his tool belt. Mr. Parker sat on the patio sipping coffee, barely glanced at the resume, eyes glued to his stock app at the roses blooming by month's end. He had no clue Detroit roses bloom in July anyway. Rich folks hire people like decorations. They don't want workers, they want professionals to make their garden look good. Dad talked about organic fertilizer recipes and imported pruning shears. Mr. Parker just heard the keywords, Beverly, 10 years, organic, like a magic password. The master stroke. Dad's hands. He rubbed a bit of engine oil on them to make the calluses stand out, really just from fixing the trailer yesterday. When he shook Mr. Parker's hand, the gold watch band dug in. Dad winced, then smiled. Sir, that watch band needs oiling. Rose thorns could catch the links. Mr. Parker actually looked at him twice then. Rich folks love it when the help notices those tiny things. Makes them feel refined. Mom was next level. Sophia got her in as a temp cleaner at the Parkers, basically mopping floors and scrubbing ovens for $8 an hour, less than the fast food joint. The mom kept notes. Mrs. Parker wore pearls Wednesday, diamonds Friday. The head housekeeper, Rita, hid the cleaning spray in the third cabinet and sipped the bourbon. Rita, who'd been there 5 years, watched Mom polish silver like a suspicious old cat. Then, Mrs. Parker's pearl earring went missing. She screamed at Rita. Mom, cleaning the oven, saw the earring glint in a carpet seam. Watched Rita nudge it under the sofa with her foot. Mom knew when rich folks lose something, the help gets blamed first. 3 days later, Mom spotted fake pearl earrings at a thrift store, identical to Mrs. Parker's, except for made in China stamped inside. She bought them for $10, smuggled them home in her bra. The next day, Rita ordered Mom to tidy her purse. Mom found the earring tucked inside. Oh, Mrs. Parker. Isn't this the one you lost last week? How'd it get here? Mrs. Parker's memory was as unreliable as her luxury upkeep logs. She instantly blamed Rita. The real earring was still under the sofa, but Rita had a record for sneaking king goods to her husband hiding in. Well, that secret room. Mom's plan worked because she'd spent 3 months in the kitchen, learning rich folks' arrogance and paranoia. As security dragged Rita out, Mom was already buttoned into a crisp housekeeper's uniform, Maria embroidered on the collar. Sophia asked how she knew Mrs. Parker would believe her. Mom polished a spoon, smiling grimly. Rich folks see us like talking Roombas. Play loyal and dumb. They won't even check the cameras. My turn, the IT intern. I saw a flyer at the community center. The Parkers needed network maintenance. Contact was Mrs. Parker's personal email. Rich folks won't use a public number, scared of poor people germs. I used a school computer to set up a fake email, the Detroit SpeedNet, attached a fake business license template with the community center address PSD on. The fake ID badge had the old photo scribbled out, mine pasted over. My toolkit had a toy multimeter wrapped in electrical tape. The router upgrade jargon? Learn it overnight on YouTube. Key move. I borrowed Marcus's security jacket. The shoulder patches made Mrs. Parker glance and nod. Hurry up. Don't interrupt Chloe's online class. In the study, Mr. Parker's hard drive sat right there. Password hint, Chloe's first horse show, later found out it was 20,150,612, pretending to adjust the webcam. I stuck an old phone rigged as a micro camera under the desk lamp base. Mrs. Parker's room was easier. She was doing downward dog on her yoga mat, didn't notice me boosting the signal near the aromatherapy diffuser. Young man, make sure the Wi-Fi reaches everywhere, especially the basement. She had no clue what was hidden behind that basement panel. Our ticking time bomb. The funniest part. They totally bought the system upgrade. Chloe walked by, tossed her AirPods on the desk. Can you unlock Dad's computer? He hides the photo albums. I almost laughed. She didn't know I was live streaming Mr. Parker's private files, including hotel bills with his mistress. Dylan was worse. He'd stuck a post-it with his game passwords on the monitor corner. Don't tell Mom and Dad. My secret base. 3 days later, Mrs. Parker texted, network's faster. Good job. A $20 tip lay on our trailer table, less than I made at the convenience store. But the real prize was on that hard drive. Bitcoin wallets, prescription records, property deals. Bait on a mousetrap, finally pinching the rich where it hurt. By day, we played our parts in the mansion. Sophia taught Chloe rich people thinking, though she'd never set foot in a Starbucks. Dad left a few dead leaves on the roses, so Mr. Parker thought it looked professional. Mom stuffed expired cans into her apron while dusting chandeliers. Until Sophia warned, they can smell the pour on us, like dogs smell meat. Our favorite game. Pretending we owned the place when the Parkers were out. Sophia draped a Chanel jacket over her shoulders, wobbled on 10-inch heels, heels thinner than trailer park nails, she'd never worn. I sat in Mr. Parker's leather office chair, the seat warmer burning my thighs, his stock account flashing numbers brighter than our park's neon sign. Dad wore Mr. Parker's cashmere robe, sleeves rolled up over frayed cuffs, staring at the family portrait on the wall. He touched the dusty frame. This house needs new owners. Dinner was the weirdest. Mom laid out silverware, but didn't know the order, fork still smudged with toothpaste. I poured wine like Mr. Parker, splashing it on the tablecloth. Mom scrubbed at it with her fast food wipe-down moves, just making the stain bigger. Not wearing their clothes, sitting in their chairs, would make us owners. But the mirrors showed the trailer park rust still on us. Dad was right, though. Once a rat tastes cheese, cardboard won't do. Even if we never learn which fork to use, we know one thing. Rich folks' passwords aren't to keep thieves out. They're to remind us that the keys to being the master are hidden behind a panel we ain't supposed to find. Life rolled on, smooth enough to make us forget the trailer's grit. Until that stormy night, the Parkers left early for camping. We timed it. As soon as they were gone, Mom hauled steaks from the freezer. Sophia painted her nails avocado green by the pool with stolen polish. Dad sat on the patio, using Mr. Parker's cigar cutter to peel an apple. Then, at 3 p.m., headlights cut through the downpour. Mr. Parker's SUV barreled up the drive. Mrs. Parker stormed in, wet hair whipping, perfume and rain hitting the marble damn weather. We scrambled for the storage closet, hearts pounding louder than the thunder. There was a loud banging on the back door. I checked the monitor. Rita, wearing an old Parker raincoat like a bedraggled crow. She punched in the code. The door swung open. Our whole family froze. She held up photos, Dad patching a tire, Mom unraveling a sweater, me swapping expired labels at the convenience store. You cut off my husband's food. Turns out the man in hiding was her husband Giulio, deep in debt. He'd been stashed in the Parker's basement for 3 years. The entrance was behind a bookcase in the storage room, password Dylan's birthday. Inside, a cot, crates of cans, alive scratched on the walls with fingernails. Rita smuggled him cans during grocery runs until we got her fired. Giulio had licked condensation off the walls for 3 days. He was fading fast? Rita screamed, pulling out a box cutter, the blade etched with Giulio. Mom lunged. She hadn't even fought back when her fast food boss groped her, but now she went for Rita's throat. She knew if we got caught, even living like rats would be over. Just then, Mrs. Parker's heels clicked on the stairs. I dragged Rita into the utility closet. Dad bound her wrist and ankles with gardening twine. Sophia shoved a kitchen rag into her mouth. But Mr. Parker's voice boomed nearby. Where's Carlos? Why is his gardening jacket on the couch? Through the crack, I saw Dad barefoot behind a curtain, toes muddy from the roses. Mr. Parker bent to pick up the ID badge, then jerked back, pinching his nose. That tiny gesture was the fuse. I remembered last week in the garage, Mr. Parker handing Dad his pay envelope with 2 fingers, saying poor people sweat taints the roses. Dad's hands shook. Rita thrashed, her shoe hitting the Roomba. It whirred to life, the vacuum sound shockingly loud in the silent mansion. Mr. Parker yelled from the living room, that damn thing's louder than the tornado. He hit pause. Rita slammed her head against the closet door, the sound muffled by rain and rag. Mrs. Parker's footsteps got closer. Sophia suddenly shoved Rita towards the hidden basement panel. She remembered me mentioning it. The metal door clicked shut just as Mrs. Parker pushed open the utility closet. She stared at the pearls around Mom's neck. Maria, that looks remarkably like mine. Mom yanked them off, stuffing them into her apron. Miss Chloe gave them to me. Said they were out of style. Mrs. Parker smiled coldly. She knew. They were bait, lost last week to test the new help. We'd walked right into the trap. Mrs. Parker sent Mom to make coffee. We used the chance to stuff Rita, still bound, into a heavy-duty trash bag in the backyard cleanup cart, piled high with rose clippings and expired fertilizer sacks. Thorns ripped her raincoat, blood spotting the fertilizer bags. Dad whispered, garbage truck comes at 10. He knew the rich folks' schedule cold. Rita glared towards the hidden panel, eyes burning. Her husband was still in there. We figured once Rita was gone, no one would feed him. He'd rot with the expired cans. A few days later came Dylan's birthday bash. White tents by the pool. A Michelin chef flipping to $100, pound wagyu. The smell of meat and roses hung thick, like expensive soap. I snuck near, pretending to deliver a game controller, just wanting a taste of that beef. At the height of the party, Chloe and Chanel about to cut the cake. A horrible metallic screech tore from the storage room. Like hell's door being chewed open. Smiles froze. Giulio burst out, work pants shredded, belly grotesquely swollen, clutching a wrench he'd pried from a basement vent, rusty water dripping from its jaws. We learned later he'd eaten expired dog food, vitamin paste, even scraped damp-proof coating off the walls. He'd torn his fingernails off prying that vent. All for the food Rita promised would be at the party. Sophia was adjusting Chloe's bow tie. Giulio swung the wrench at Chloe. Sophia shoved her aside. Both tumbled into the inflatable castle. The wrench sliced Sophia's side. Her avocado green apron split open. Things spilled out, blood streaking down her leg in a crooked line. I remember her looking at the pearl bracelet on Chloe's wrist as she fell. The one she'd clasped there herself. Giulio raised the wrench again. Dad charged from the rose bush, his gardening suit damp with dew, pruning shears dripping red rose juice. Now about to drip something else. The wrench hit his shoulder. I heard the crack, like a winter pipe bursting in the trailer park. But Dad didn't stop. The shears stabbed into Giulio's thigh, not to kill, just to slow the starving man down. Mr. Parker was crouched nearby, fumbling for his keys. His gold watch scraped the ground, flashing. Damn it, this stench. He pinched his nose, scowling at the blood and sweat on Dad, like Dad was trash. That made Dad freeze. I saw his throat move, remembering the garage. The two-fingered pay envelope. Don't bring poor people germs in here. The pruning shears plunged into the back of Mr. Parker's neck with the dull thud of splitting fruit. Blood sprayed into the pool, turning the water pink. Rose petals swirled on the surface like a funeral. Mrs. Parker screamed. Dad stood in the spreading red, slowly peeling off his gardening gloves. These hands that tended rich folks' roses, now dripping rich folks' blood, felt cleaner than they ever had. Giulio collapsed by the inflatable castle, half a cake clutched in his hand, frosting smeared on his cracked lips, a poor man's last bite of the rich life. Sophia's blood seeped into the marble grout. Mom used 3 bottles of bleach, but it wouldn't come out. Mrs. Parker later called it spilled red wine on the insurance forms. The weirdest part was Dylan, crouched by the pink pool, whispering, "Dad's blood looks more real than the ketchup in my games." When the police lights painted the mansion blue, I saw the hidden basement panel click shut. Dad didn't run. He hid behind it, listening to the chaos upstairs like it was a play he'd written. I knew then. This bloody party wasn't just a tragedy. It was our calling card to the rich. We aren't parasites. We're the roots under their floorboards. We're the seeds they can't crush. We're the blood-stained roses that will push through the garbage truck come spring.